What's your business?
Yes, I am Kiran Saund, and I am the CEO and chef sommelier of Saund Snyder. Yes.
And I'm John Snyder. I am the co-executive chef of Saund Snyder. So, I'll start.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so we met in culinary school. On day one, we were in the same class.
Yes.
And it was literally immediate rivalry, competing against one another from day one.
They organized you like through last name, so Saund and Snyder were right next to each other, shared a station. And yeah, it was extremely competitive at the beginning, a lot of getting on each other's nerves. And then after a while, we realized we got some coffees after class, talked about it, and then really came together. And we're stronger for it, which was so exciting. Yeah.
That was the first time we saw like our strengths together and what we could do.
Absolutely.
So I think my first interactions with food or good food were my grandma's house. It was great. My grandma was an artist. She painted scapes. My grandfather was a fisherman and a hunter and took me on a lot of those adventures with him. So my first experiences with food were going out in nature and bringing it back home and preparing a meal that we sat around the table and enjoyed. It didn't really grasp in my head that I wanted this to be the epicenter of my lifestyle until I started growing up and looking back on how fond those memories were and how much that made me feel joy to be able to harvest from the land and create something for a plate of food for people to enjoy. And so when I actually started cooking, coincidentally, it was just my first job and I didn't really assume a career out of it. I assumed it as an obligation, right? Until I met someone that was cooking at a higher caliber than I was and showed me the kind of things they were doing. Like they were foraging, they were going and getting game from purveyors that was wild, coming back and like that's what I wanted to do right then. I realized this is what I've wanted for so long, and I finally got to connect the two and use that. And so my life kind of made a flip-flop at that 17-year-old mark where I was like, I don't want to do this for obligation, I want to go into fine dining, and that's immediately where everything's So being on this island, the small island that I said I was from earlier, you know, it's not much else except a resort-style atmosphere, which gave me a lot of kind of experience really early on. And then when I got to a point where I felt like I had just done everything in my town, I was like, it's time to go to the next chapter. So this business started in the middle of the pandemic. We were watching Instagram. I mean, everything with George Floyd had just happened, and there was a lot of turmoil going on in the restaurant industry and in our just our culture and our society at the present time. We were seeing that fine dining was dead. We were seeing, what is going to happen now. All the restaurants were closing, and we didn't feel like fine dining had to be compromised. Right. We just thought it needed to evolve, and that's where this kind of came about. Is that we wanted to bring a Michelin star level experience into someone's house where they can enjoy it in sweatpants or they can dress up to the nines, which we've literally seen both so far. And it's been really amazing. And then tying the social justice aspect into it that's what we wanted to do from the get-go. We wanted to be able to support our community. We wanted to be able to bring awareness to people. We wanted to feed communities that needed to be fed. And so that's kind of how the whole thing started. We just wanted to formulate this plan that could benefit, everyone.
Yeah, we definitely, community is a really big forefront for our business, and we were planning on launching anyway. And so it was really difficult during the pandemic to figure out how to create community, right? And so one thing that we've noticed in restaurants as well, we feel like restaurants really they should hold an obligation to be centers of the community. You know what I mean? Because a lot of people in the community come to those locations, and I feel like that's really died out. And so we're really working on how we can incorporate the community, and by doing that right now within our means, we showcase that by donating. and donating to now specifically like donations and charities and organizations within the DMV area. And so we really want to just show that like until we have a storefront, like we are here for the community and we want to support the community how we can. And so the pandemic really helped because I feel like everyone just kind of looked inward, and that was also part of it. Like building community is also like looking inward and helping those around you rather than looking so far out. And so that was a big part of it. Yeah.
Like our approach is very like minimalist. We don't have extra things on the plate. We would rather showcase 3 flavors amazingly instead of having 9 different things that kind of confuse you. And so I feel like that's kind of our cuisine. It's just,
we don't really have a specific cuisine like in terms of region of the world, but we definitely have a style, which is where I feel like the art comes into it, the artistic style of just kind of bringing that joy. And that's also where like the weird concept of our business where you kind of only experience it at home, that really takes play with our style and our obsession with the style, because we really want that wow factor. You know, we're not coming at you with a hot plate being like, here you go, and like disappearing. You know, this is your entire moment. You need to have that shock there. And so we aren't driven by a specific cuisine. And you were saying earlier, it's like based off of like, you know, so much, but I think it's
I don't think we've literally tied down the type of food that
I know, right? I was gonna say, yeah.
We are pretty vast in what we know and what we enjoy cooking, and so I think what makes its way to the plate are just things that bring us joy, really, at the present moment.
Yeah.
A lot of our food is very nature driven. It's very natural in its forms. We have a lot of things that mimic and represent things in nature, and
also just the humility that we both have of just not knowing also like what else is in the world. And so we can't really hone ourselves down to a specific style of cuisine because we're constantly learning and constantly excited, like children in candy shops, just like, what, this is so cool, this exists in the food world. And so just a lot of that, and so we want to share it and show it and bring it to everyone. So a lot of the style rather than is our obsession right now. For me, so my connection with art specifically is emotion. And so whenever I look at art, I don't know if I'm fooling myself, but I'm really just thinking about what emotion am I getting from this? You know, what emotion are people getting? Are people getting the same emotion I'm getting? What is going on? And so food also just has so much emotion involved in it, whether it's your own emotion when you eat the food, or it's the emotion of the person who gave you the food, or the emotion of the community, the environment you're in, wherever you are. And so art and food really are the same thing to me because of that reason, because they evoke so much emotion and there's so much power within that. So if I'm kind of at a standstill in my mind with food and art, I will turn to painting and art and just think about like different forms of emotion within that. I also like doing oil painting because oil doesn't dry as quickly as acrylic painting, and so it just gives you more momentum, more movement. You really like, you get to experience everything with the art. You get to manipulate it more, just like food. And so I definitely think art, for me, art and food, they both inspire each other for me. Cakes. That's a new thing that recently actually developed. Like how you were saying with food, it's just kind of slowly developed. Cake has just been in my life from the beginning, and lately, it's just, I've really realized cake is where all my joy lies. And also as a baker now, it's just like, it's so much. It symbolizes so much because it's always the thing for celebration. So just immediately emotion, joy there, emotion, joy. And then when you take it to creating it as a baker, it's just such an involved process. And you can really break it down and manipulate it down to every single layer and flavor and detail down to texture, all of these things that you can do with it. And so cake is just so exciting.
I think some of my favorite things that I like to make are going back to what you were talking about, which is just a piece of my childhood. Some of my favorite dishes I created are things that my grandma used to make me back home: chicken and dumplings, sweet potato casserole, shrimp and grits is like probably my literal favorite food ever. I could eat a big old plate of shrimp and andouille sausage and grits. probably for the rest of my life. But yeah, I mean, I really like bringing back memories from my childhood, thinking about when my grandma made it, trying to recreate those flavors in my mind, and yeah, it really takes me back, especially since I don't live there anymore, so it makes it even sweeter. We started with just the wooden box, and
Yes, I forgot about that.
for what we have higher standards than just giving people a wooden box, you know, and
Yeah.
we wanted the experience to be more. We wanted to be more, and so we turned it into like a gift, like you're opening a present, right? And then we found that we could be, you know, economically or environmentally friendly with reusable packaging and everything, and so we invested in that, right? And we definitely have the most expensive takeout budget in Washington D.C. But it's worth it, and our guests love it, and it's super unique. You know, it's fun, and it's fun to get and receive and open, and so the packaging definitely evolved over time. It was not always like that, but we were actually incredibly blessed to just find things that fit and find suppliers for that, and it works. And yeah, so here we are.
Yeah.